Indian women aren't wrong. They're right to call out the emotional immaturity, entitlement, dependence, and the lack of responsibility they sometimes experience from Indian men. The man who expects his wife to clean up after him, manage all the emotions that arise in such an environment, and constantly adjust to his needs isn't behaving like a partner. He's behaving like a baby. Like someone who is still being taken care of. But wait a minute. Who raised him that way? Because before he became someone's husband, he was somebody's son. And yes, I'm talking about Indian mothers, but I'm not letting fathers off the hook either. Because an absent father, or even a father who's physically present but emotionally checked out, can leave a boy without a role model for what healthy masculinity looks like. So sometimes a mother overprotects his son. She does everything for him. Shields him from consequences too. And a father doesn't step in to teach him independence. That boy grows up believing this is what love looks like. Then he becomes a man, and eventually another woman enters his life, except this time she's not his mother. And she doesn't want another child to take care of. She wants a partner. The first thing we need to understand is that a lot of Indian boys are raised very differently from Indian girls. A girl is often taught to be careful. Be independent, know how to cook, keep the house in order, think about other people's needs, be responsible, adjust. And the boy, he can often get away with being a boy for much longer. His mother serves him food, washes his clothes, cleans his room, reminds him about things, makes excuses for him, and even protects him from consequences. And nobody sees anything wrong with it. Because she's his mother. She's loving him after all. She's taking care of him. But there's a difference between taking care of your child and never teaching your child to take care of themselves. And that is where the problem starts. Because dependence can look a lot like love when you've grown up inside it. The boy doesn't think I'm incapable of doing this. He thinks, why would I do this? My mom does it. He doesn't think I should learn how to cook. He thinks there has to be food at home. He doesn't think I should learn how to manage my own life. He thinks I'll ask my mother or even my father sometimes. And slowly, the thing that should have been basic life skills become women's responsibilities. Cooking and cleaning become something that his mother does. Remembering birthdays, appointments, family obligations, and social details, everything is something that his mother does. Even managing the emotional atmosphere of the household becomes something that women do. And a boy gets to simply exist inside that system. Until one day, he's married. And suddenly his mother isn't there to do all of his work for him anymore. So who takes his place? Obviously his wife. This is where a lot of Indian women understandably lose patience. Because she didn't marry a child. She married an adult man. And yet she finds herself half expected to do things his mother did for him for decades. The problem here isn't that his mother taught him to feel loved. The problem is that she may have accidentally taught him that being loved means being served. And those have two completely different meanings. But I also think we need to understand why some mothers do this. Sometimes she's doing something much more complicated. She's giving her son the kind of childhood she wished she had. Because many Indian women were not raised to feel powerful. They were raised to be careful. They have learned very early that the world could be unforgiving towards women. They learned to watch their surroundings, to be conscious of how they dressed, where they went, whom they trusted, what time they came back home, how they behaved, how much they could push back. And for women, marriage doesn't necessarily mean freedom from those expectations. It means a fresh new set of them. So when that woman has a son, she may look at him and think, at least my child won't have to struggle the way I did. And hence she protects him, does anything for him. She worries about him. She gives him freedoms she may have never experienced herself. And the intention can be beautiful. But good intentions don't always produce good outcomes. Because if you protect your boy from every inconvenience, every consequence, and every uncomfortable responsibility, you're not preparing him for adulthood. You're preparing him to expect protection. And this is where fathers matter too, because mothers aren't raising sons in a vacuum. A father who is absent, emotionally unavailable, or simply uninvolved in the everyday work of raising a boy can leave the mother carrying all of the emotional and practical burden of the household. And if the boy's only model of adulthood is a mother who does everything and a father who expects everything to be done, what exactly is he supposed to learn? He learns the hierarchy before he learns responsibility. He learns who serves. He also learns who gets served. And eventually he may carry that hierarchy into his own marriage without even hesitating. And that's the part we need to stop pretending is harmless. Because the boy who never had to become independent doesn't magically become an independent man after he gets married. And the woman he marries shouldn't have to finish the job his parents started and left unfinished. You shouldn't have to teach him adulting. Things like how to communicate, how to regulate himself, how to take responsibility, how to stand up for yourself, even how to cook. All of the above things scream dependence and not partnership. It's almost like parenting 2.0. And if we're being honest, Indian men don't need less love from their mothers. They need a different kind of love. The kind that eventually says, I love you enough to let you do your own thing by yourself. And I love you enough to let you be the man you will eventually become. But to understand why this happens, we have to go back one generation. Because the mother we're talking about didn't appear out of nowhere. She was once the daughter. And she grew up learning something that many Indian women learn very early. The world is not equally safe for you. She learns to be careful around men, careful about where she goes, careful about what she wears, careful about what time she comes back home, careful about whom she trusts, careful about how loud she is, careful about how much she argues, careful about how she behaves in front of relatives. And eventually, she learns that women's mistakes are rarely allowed to belong only to her. They become a family's reputation. A daughter's behavior becomes a reflection of her parents. A wife's behavior becomes a reflection of her husband. A mother's behavior becomes a reflection of her children. So she learns to anticipate, to adjust, to keep the peace, to tolerate things that shouldn't have to be tolerated. And sometimes she watches the men around her move through the same world with freedoms she was never given. Her brother can come home late. She can't. Her brother can be loud, but she has to be respectful. Her brother can make mistakes. She is expected to know better. Her brother gets served food, and she's the one who serves it. And maybe nobody ever sits her down and says, this is unfair. She just learns that this is how life is for people with two X chromosomes. Then she grows up. She gets married. And she enters another household with another set of expectations. She learns how to cook for everyone, clean for everyone, remember everything, manage everyone's moods, take care of children, take care of her husband, take care of her in-laws. Now imagine what happens when that woman has a son. She looks at him differently, not necessarily because she loves her daughter less, but because she sees something in her son that she didn't have growing up. Freedom. And sometimes she becomes determined to protect it. She doesn't want him to struggle the way she struggled. She doesn't want him to experience the humiliation she experienced. She doesn't want him to feel powerless. So she gives him what she wishes somebody had given her. She tries to live her freedom through her son. So she protects him. She serves him. She forgives him. She makes his life easier. She even makes dowry demands on his behalf. And sometimes she does too much. Instead of teaching him how to survive the world, she tries to make sure he never has to experience the part of it that hurt. And I understand why. If you spent your entire life being told to be careful, it makes sense that you would want your son to feel safe. If you spent your entire life being told to sacrifice, it makes sense that you would want your son to have comfort. If you spent your entire life adjusting to everyone else, It makes sense that you would want at least one person in your life who doesn't have to do it. But comfort can very easily become dependence, and dependence can become entitlement. A boy who never has to clean up after himself doesn't necessarily see cleaning as a skill. He sees it as something someone else does. And this is also the reason why we mistreat our maids, our domestic help. A boy who never has to cook doesn't necessarily think I should learn. He thinks someone else will cook. A boy who never has to manage his own problems doesn't necessarily develop resilience. He develops the expectation that someone else will solve them for him. And eventually, that boy becomes a man. And the world changes. Because his mother isn't the only woman in his life anymore. Now he has a wife. And she looks at all those things differently. She doesn't see a helpless little boy. She sees an adult man. And she expects him to behave like one. That's where the friction arises. Because the son may think, why isn't she taking care of me? While the woman is thinking, why am I taking care of a grown man as if he were a child? And this is where we need to be honest. A mother can love her son a lot and still raise him badly. Those two things can exist at the same time, and in Indian societies it's really common. Her intentions can be good, but the outcome can still be terrible. Because love isn't just about making someone's life easier. Sometimes love means making sure they can survive on their own. And now we bring fathers into the conversation. Because the burden of raising emotionally healthy boys cannot be dumped entirely on mothers. A father who is physically present but emotionally absent can cause serious problems in the family. A father who believes earning money is the beginning and end of parenting will never understand the struggle of actually raising a well-adjusted son. A father who never teaches his son how to communicate, apologize, handle rejection, control his anger, or take responsibility is also the problem here. Because boys learn what manhood looks like by watching other men, especially our fathers. And if the father isn't there to model it, the mother may become the boy's entire emotional world. She becomes his comfort, his problem solver, his protector, his mediator, his safety net, and eventually his definition of what a woman is supposed to do for him. This cycle is scary because the mother was once taught to adjust to men, so she now raises a son who expects women to adjust to him. Make it make sense. And then he grows up and marries another woman. But the cycle hasn't ended, has it? It has simply changed generations. And that's why the answer to this problem isn't telling Indian mothers to love their son less. That's ridiculous. It's telling all of us to understand what independence actually means. A mother shouldn't have to disappear from her son's life for him to become a man. But she shouldn't have to remain responsible for his life either. After all, the greatest act of love isn't saying I'll always take care of you. It's saying I've taught you enough. Now go learn how to take care of yourself and make me proud. One day, the boy grows up. He falls in love. He gets married. Now scratch that. His mother finds him a fair-skinned bride and then he gets married. And suddenly, the woman who enters his life discovers that she has married a man that's pretty much a man-child. She has now inherited everything he was never taught to do. She discovers that he doesn't know how to run the household, doesn't know how to communicate when he's angry, doesn't know how to handle disagreements without becoming defensive, doesn't know how to say no, doesn't know how to make decisions without checking with his mother first. And a lot of the times he doesn't even understand why any of this is a problem. Because from his perspective, this is normal. This is how his family has lived. This is how his mother and father have behaved. So when his wife says, I need you to take responsibility, he hears, you're attacking my family. When she says, I don't want your mother involved in every decision we make, he hears, you don't respect my mother. And when she says, I don't want to do everything for you, he hears, you don't love me. That's a trap. because he has been taught to measure love through service. His mother cooked for him, cleaned for him, protected him. His mother forgave him. She adjusted. So, somewhere deep inside, he may have learned that a woman who loves you is a woman who does everything for you that you're supposed to do by yourself. That's so unfair to ask of someone. A partner can cook for you. A partner can take care of you when you're sick. A partner can make sacrifices for you. But those things mean something when they're freely given. They become something else when they're silently expected. And this is the point where a lot of Indian men need to hear something uncomfortable. Your wife is not disrespecting your mother by refusing to become her. She isn't trying to replace her. She isn't trying to take her son away. She is asking you to become an adult who can build a life with another adult. Together. And if your response to this is to run back to your mother every single time your wife challenges you, you're not protecting your family. You're avoiding adulthood. Becoming independent doesn't mean you're abandoning your parents. It simply means having a spine. You can love your mother and sometimes disagree with her. You can respect your father and reject his mistakes. You can take care of your family without allowing them to run your lives insidiously. And most importantly, you can love your wife without making her compete with your mother. Because the competition should never exist in the first place. Your mother is your mother. Your wife is your wife. They have completely different roles in your life. And if you force your wife to become your mother, you've already failed. Indian women also have to stop assuming that their sons are helpless. Sometimes the cycle continues even after the boy becomes a man. But at some point, helping becomes interference, and protection becomes control. Even love becomes ownership. Your son is not your pet project forever. He's supposed to become his own person. And if he gets married, that becomes even more important. Because now there are two adults trying to build a life together, raise a family together. And this is where I think Indian men also need to look at themselves. Not their mothers, not their wives, themselves. Because eventually your childhood stops being an explanation and starts becoming an excuse. Maybe your mother did everything for you. Maybe your father wasn't around enough. Maybe you were never taught how to communicate. Maybe nobody taught you how to deal with rejection, conflict, responsibility, or independence. Fine. But you're an adult now. And once you know that, you have a choice. You can keep saying, that's just how I was raised. Or you can say, that's how I was raised, but that's not how I'm going to live. That's where this cycle ends. It breaks. It ends when you become capable of standing on your own feet. When you can feed yourself, clean up after yourself, manage your money, handle your emotions, protect your relationships, and most importantly, take responsibility.